Let's see how to use this performance tracker, which has evolved over the last few years. So when you're looking at, of course, the tracker, the instructions to use the tracker is going to be the same. So let me take you through. So we've got 4 sheets over here: the instructions sheet, input, progress, and summary. I'll take you through each of them. So when you're looking at the instructions sheet, you have only 3 inputs to provide. So for example, I'll put my name here. You just need to enter your name. When you started preparation, say for example, you can make an edit over here, or you can input. It will only take a date format. Suppose I started preparing in the month of October 11th, and my exam date, I'll let it be on the 12th. Let's say I'll make it 25th May 2023 is my exam date. Right now, nothing else can be input. That is all you need to enter, and it is important that you enter the date of beginning preparation and the exam date in your tracker. You have to input a date which is earlier than today. You cannot enter a date which is after today, because a lot of calculations are there, a lot of analysis is being done, a lot of schedule is being prepared for you. So that will be done accordingly. So you cannot put a date which is in future. You have to put either today's date or an earlier date as your date of beginning preparation, because there's a lot of formulas being used. It will show you an error otherwise. There's a lot of instructions and all given. Go through it. This is basically the detail or the instructions with respect to the meaning of each of the headings. So the instructions you can go through later: order of studies, schedule, etc. I'll show it to you. I'll explain you the headings myself. Input sheet is where you're supposed to be entering all the details, and there's a lot more that is being combined in this sheet. It might seem complicated, but it's a very useful sheet and it's very simple to work. There's a lot of information I've added over here. So make sure that you're using it very well. It is very important that you're measuring what you're doing in order to improve your performance. So instead of being skeptical of inputting your details and to see how much I've prepared and being skeptical about it, it's better that you at least know where you stand, and so that you can take corrective action accordingly. So let's go through this sheet. This is the input sheet. That's all you need to enter, and the progress and summary will give you the output. I'll explain the sheets. So instructions sheet, you just need to fill in your exam date and preparation date. When you start, you save this file and keep it with you. You don't have to update this again, right? There's not a lot of effort you need to take. All you have to do is update the completion portion here. Rest of the cells are uneditable. You cannot touch those cells. So you don't have to get scared about this. So let's say, for example, I'm looking at a chapter. The order of studies provided here, and this is the chapter number, the reading number. So I am supposed to be preparing in this order. I'm supposed to be studying in this order, in this particular order. This has been defined because I've tried to alternate between theory, practical chapter. I've tried to keep chapters with more retention issues to the end, so that you do it more before the exam. And there's a lot of relationships between chapters that you need to understand this particular reading to be able to solve this particular chapter. In the schedule is telling you that based on your preparation date and exam date, etc., you need to complete these 2 chapters in this week, current week. I'm giving you a weekly target and not a daily target, because people will have different time frames with respect to jobs and full-time students, and the amount of hours you can put in on a daily basis, that might vary. So this is your current week target, that you need to complete these 2 chapters. Week 2, you need to complete these 4 chapters. Now that will be based on the lecture hours. So these 4 chapters will be smaller or will have lesser duration as compared to the first 2 chapters. Therefore, week 2 has 4 chapters. Week 3 has got only 3 chapters. Week 4 gets again 2 chapters only, because these 2 chapters will be lengthy. So based on the amount of duration of lectures you have, based on that, we've kind of given you a target. We've got a 24-week planner over here. That is based on the exam date and today's date, right? And everything in the sheet is going to get automatically updated. I'll show it to you. Then these are the subjects. So we are starting with quants, let's say. Of course, don't bother about the subject or the topic, because this is just an instructions file for the performance tracker. So across all levels exams, you'll be using the tracker in a similar way. The chapters will change, the names of the chapters and subject. So subject, chapter number is there, and the chapter name is there over here. Each of the chapters have got certain number of headings. The subheadings, we call it learning outcomes statement. So time value of money has got 6 subheadings. Organizing, visualizing has got, let's say, 14 headings. So the headings, number of headings is provided over here. And if you notice, they're all kind of conditional formatting has been added for you to understand the number of LOSs, and which has got more LOSs is darker in color. So you can just quickly understand that. Now what I have done is, whether the chapter is lengthy or not, on a scale of 1 to 5, all these numbers are going to be on a scale of 1 to 5. These numbers that you see, right? So on a scale of 1 to 5, is the chapter very lengthy? Is the chapter very numerical or non-numerical in nature, right? So time value of money is totally numerical. What is the difficulty level of chapter on a scale of 1 to 5? 5 being the most difficult. Is the chapter very confusing? Actually, time value of money is not that difficult. It's just that it's one of the beginning chapters, so students find it more difficult, and henceforth I've kept it on a scale of 5 in terms of confusing and importance. Importance, of course, depends on testability. Also, it depends on how important the concept is for you to be able to analyze other chapters. So both the things are there, and required practice. So there could be certain topics where maybe a lot of tricky questions can come in. So the importance of practice becomes high. Of course, it's got nothing to do with the institute, because the exam could test you absolutely from any corner. There is no selective studying you're supposed to do, but still I've tried to put this importance level from a teacher's point of view, right? And then there is the practice level. This is the total duration of the lectures for that particular chapter. It is a lecture duration. It does not include revision lecture or practice lectures duration. It is a lectures duration to complete the chapter, right? Now, this is a cumulative percentage. So basically, say for example, if you've completed all the chapters till here, we are looking at income tax. Suppose I've completed all the chapters till here. That means 21% of lectures are complete. So this is the cumulative percentage. So at the end, it is going to become 100. And if you see, the graph is continuously changing as you move forward. So if I'm on chapter number, let's say this particular chapter, I'm completed with 35% of the curriculum. This is in terms of lecture hours only, right? Now, this entire portion is what you will have to fill up. The rest, you don't have to do anything. It's just information being provided to you. I'll explain this bit also, don't worry. Now, suppose I complete one chapter. I've completed the lectures. I've completed studying, because obviously you attend the class and then you have to do your self-study. Then you solve questions from multiple places. So there are certain practice areas which could differ for different level. You might have different sources of practice. Then you do your revision. Then you can practice some extra stuff which you can practice maybe with revision or after revision. There is a certain minimum amount of practice you have to do, and depending of course on the time frame you have, you can add on to more practice portions. This new couple of columns we've added over here, one is your confidence level. So what you can do over here is you can enter something on a scale of 1 to 5. If I'm very confident in a subject, I'll enter 5. If I've got the least bit of confidence, I'll enter 1. So on a scale of 1 to 5, I can put any value. And we have almost by default put the values as 2.5, which is average, right? So what is the confidence level you have when you're attempting the subject with respect to your preparation? At times this happens that, I've probably rushed up a particular chapter, or maybe I'm not confident, I did not get the concepts very well, or I think I need an extra couple of revision. So I'll put my confidence level as 2 or 3. If I'm very confident, 5. So when I'm going to revise, I know that I'll need extra time to revise this particular chapter, or because my confidence level is low, I should be doing some extra amount of practice over here. Which practice to prioritize, etc. is already in the instructions sheet below. So I've given a lot of instructions over here in terms of what is difficulty level. So all this has been mentioned over here, right? And what different types of practice portions are there. Level of practice, and also what is the importance of practice, because you cannot practice everything. You have limited amount of resources. You cannot possibly practice everything under the sun. So it's important to prioritize that these are more important. I need to practice these first. If I have time, I'll practice these resources also. So you have to know that part, right? So this is the confidence level, and something if you want to add, I get confused with this chapter, or get back to this chapter after you have completed another chapter if there's any connection. So if you want to write something for yourself to remember when you get back for revision, you can just write whatever you feel like. These are notes to yourself, right? For each particular chapter. So confidence level notes to yourself is optional whether you want to enter or not. Now suppose I've completed all sorts of practice for this chapter. You can simply type D. All you need to do is type D. Done or undone. That's the only input it's going to take. I'm just going to be a little quick so that I can show you how it can look like. I'm going to input D in a lot of cells together. You use the shortcut Control Enter to input in multiple cells. So suppose I select these, and you should not be updating this on a daily basis. Weekly basis is good enough, but weekly basis you should. So I've done these over here. Let's say for this one, I've done only partially some stuff as in practice or study. This one I've done only this much. So I've done some inputs. So this is my status, done or undone. This is the only input you have to do, done, undone. Your confidence level in each of the chapter, and notes to yourself is optional if you want to remember something. Now at the top of the table, if you notice, the average difficulty length, lengthiness, numerical, difficulty level, confusing. So these are the average of all the chapters combined. This will not give you much of an information, but respective chapters is going to give you. Yeah, this I know that on an average, each chapter will have around 8.8 or 9 subheadings, let's say. And total 278 hours of class, let's say I've completed 133 hours. For different levels, it could be different. I have completed 40% of the curriculum. Lectures, I've completed 31 out of 73 chapters. Self-study, I have done for 26 out of 73 chapters, etc., etc. Revision, I have done, let's say, 26 out of 73 chapters. So this is the total number of chapters. And for each of the column headings, how many have been completed is given over here. Confidence level, the total is 5 and my average is 2.27 right now. If you fill up more 5s, say for example, I'll put a few more 5s over here, my confidence level goes up and it increases to 2.83. So this is the average confidence level I'm having across chapters right now. And of course, the confidence level could be very subjective from a student to another student, right? Once you input this, I hope this is fine. So this is the instructions sheet when you just need to put your name, your date of beginning preparation and exam date. You cannot have a date prior to today's, after today's date. You cannot have a future date over here. The formulas won't work. Then you have the input sheet where you just need to update whatever you have completed for each of the chapters. Rest of it is informational. Do not get scared looking at this. Please do not get scared looking at so much of data. It is just information. If you feel like you can use it, that okay, this is a confusing chapter. So, you can sit with a mindset to study that, okay, this is a confusing chapter. I better be attentive or I better practice properly for this chapter, right? Now, if you notice, the schedule has kind of disappeared because for the chapters you've already done, it is not going to be categorized in your schedule. Your schedule is going to start from here. The schedule, as I told you, it's based only on the lectures bit. I've completed lectures till asset-backed securities, let's say. So in current week, I need to do these 2 chapters. And week 2, 3, 4, etc. is going to be spread across the following chapters as we move forward. And it's going to be equally divided till 24th week or whatever is your duration, depending on your exam date selected. So do you see the schedule is going to be continuously updated based on what you show over here, what you input over here, right? Clear? Now, when you go to the progress part, this is your progress sheet. Over here, for each of the subjects, for example, ethics, out of 5 chapters, I've completed all the 3. Practice is done, except for extra practice, I've completed everything. Quants, I've completed everything. So I've completed the syllabus, I've completed the practice, I've completed the revision, I've completed the extra practice. Economics, not yet touched. FRA, except for a little bit of extra practice, I think everything I've done. And the confidence level was 5 in certain subjects. It was 2.5 was an average, which I had input. You have to enter to understand your confidence level. Some I had put 0 over here. So you have to put a confidence level on a scale of 0 to 5, right? The same graph has been represented in a numerical format below. The same graph is represented over here. For each of the subjects and total, what is the amount of lectures completed? And that is also giving you a bar, a highlight based on the amount of lectures completed, practice, revision, extra practice, level of confidence, and total chapters. Tell me, comfortable? Summary over here is also going to give you a lot of good understanding. This part is very important for students. Let me explain. This is the next input you will do. For example, if you're a working professional and you think you can give only, let's say, 1 hour on a weekly basis, on weekdays, 1 hour per day on weekdays. Weekends, you'll be able to, let's say, I'm going to put a 7.5 hours on weekdays. Self-study per chapter is basically estimating that after I have done the lecture, after you've done the chapter with me, after that, suppose I need 3.5 hours per chapter on an average to study myself. I'll do the lecture, I'll need to do my self-study, practice, etc. So my self-studying, practice, etc. I think I'll take it to 4.5, not 3.5. I'm taking, including self-study and practice, I'm taking 4.5 hours per chapter. I'm keeping, let's say I want to be more careful, I want to keep 26 days for revision. And I'm keeping a 4 days for buffer. That's good enough. Because obviously whenever we plan to complete our syllabus, there could be a few days which we need in buffer because we might have some spillover and we might not be able to complete the curriculum in those days. So I'm keeping a 4-day buffer. So 36 days are over. So if you see over here the timeline, 36 days are over from the date you started preparing till today. Today's date is 16th of November 2022. From today, I have 160 days studying left. I have kept a buffer of 4 days. That in case I'm not able to complete the syllabus over here, I've got some 4 days, maybe I'll fall sick or something like that. And I've kept 26 days for revision and this is my exam date. This timeline is very clear. So these many days are over, these many days are left before excluding the buffer days and the revision days. So I have to complete my curriculum in these many number of days, and this is the number of days I'll have left for revision, etc. All right, so on the summary sheet, after you input this is basically your confidence level across subjects. Ethics is low, quants is high, and this red line is giving you kind of an average. So how the different subjects are plotting as per your confidence level, right? After this, so you have these many days to complete and these many chapters, 1 hour of lecture. The same thing is basically given in a sentence format. For this, you must study these many hours and these many hours respectively on weekday, weekend, etc. That is given. So anyways, you can read this. This is basically explaining what you have. Now, based on these hours also, your analysis is being done. I'll explain. So now what has happened is you were supposed to complete 26 chapters. You have completed not just 26, you've completed 13 extra. So you've completed a total of 26 and 13. You've completed 39 chapters. 47 chapters are undone. You were supposed to complete self-study for 117 hours. These many lecture hours I have done, these many study hours I have done. So this is the total number of hours I have studied. I was supposed to study for 250 hours, total, including the lecture hours and self-study hours. But I actually ended up studying 250 plus 139. I am not yet done with 356 hours of study which I need to study. Got it? This, again the analysis, if you notice, the actual number of hours is 5.1 chapter. This is self-study, this is lectures, this is total. So I've completed 5.1 chapters, although I was expected to complete only 2.6. I have outperformed. My variance, I have studied 94% extra. I think I need to change this. I don't think you're going to be, although I don't need to be pessimistic, but let me also show you how the analysis will look like. So say for example, let me do this. And let me mark this undone. Let's see how my analysis changes. So my progress has changed. You can see that. And now what happens? Still I'm quite ahead. So I think my exam date is quite far. So let me move this to undone as well. All right, now I've got something. Now what happens is your preparation is not up to the mark, right? There are too many undone chapters. Your schedule must have been revised. See, now your current week starts from here, from the undone chapter. Now, if you notice your summary, you were supposed to complete 11 plus 2, 13 chapters. You have completed 11. As per schedule, 60 chapters would have been pending. But your number of chapters pending are 60 and 2, 62. Undone portion is 60 and extra undone is 2 because you are falling short of your schedule. That is what is being done over here. Got it? So, this is your analysis. Chapter is number of chapters and self-study, lectures and total is number of hours. Now, if you see, I was supposed to complete 2.6 chapters, out of which I've completed only 2.1. My effort is 18% short of what I should. So now my new target is 2.7. My earlier target was 2.6 per week. And I think the weekly analysis is more important and more relevant than daily, because daily will have too many fluctuations. Stock price also, if you see every day does not want to make sense, you'll understand the story of the stock only if you look at it over a long-term period. So before my target was 2.6 chapters a week. Now it has become 2.7 because I underperformed, right? Because I did not stick to the schedule. I had extra undone portion. This much undone was supposed to be undone, but I have extra 2 chapters undone by now, right? So 21% increase in effort is needed. So whatever time frame you're studying this week, or you have been studying over the weeks, you need to increase your effort by 21%. And the same calculation for lecture hours. Every week you were supposed to do 10 hours, but you ended up doing only 9 hours, 6 minutes. Now you have to do, because you did not do this much, now every week you have to do 10 hours, 7 minutes instead of 9 hours, 56 minutes. These many lecture hours and this much self-study, and this is the total you have to do. Following this, so the increased effort needed. Now please note, increased effort is in red. If it is positive, it is red. You need to increase your effort. You're falling short, that's why red. If your effort needed is negative, I'll show it in green, because then that shows that you can relax a bit. You've been doing really well. You're understanding? So if your performance is falling short, it's marked in red. And over here, what you can do is you can remove the filter, clear filter, and you can see this is the total percentage of lectures completed, self-study done, practice done, revision done, extra practice done. You can check it on a subject-wise basis also. Derivative 10%, all-time nothing is done. Quants, let's see, quants a good chunk is done. So you can check over here. Achha, FRA everything is done, FRA 100% has been done. So you can check on a subject-wise basis and you can click on remove filter to see the entire average of the all subjects taken together. It is possible that this particular chart is not working. That means you need to just right click the slicer and click on refresh. If this chart does not get refreshed, different versions at times, so in that case all you need to do and remember is right click this slicer. This is known as a slicer. You learn all these things in dashboards, Excel, presentation of data, etc. So you click on refresh and this chart is going to work for you. And then you can click on any of the subjects and you can see what is the outcome. Hopefully this is going to be useful. Once again, a quick roundup. On the instructions page, all you do is you put in your name, you put the date which that you started preparation. It cannot be a future date. It has to be today's date or a previous date to today's date. You put in the date of the exam. All the instructions are given. This is basically the description of the heading. Now the input sheet is where all these headings are there. These headings details are provided over here, the instructions and all. Input sheet might seem to be a bit overwhelming to you, but basically all you need to do is input this area. I have given the details as to how many LOSs or subheadings are there in the chapter, and on a scale of 1 to 5 I've given you description of whether the chapter is lengthy, numerical or less numerical, difficulty is high or low, it's more confusing and tricky, how important the chapter is, how much of practice is important, etc. Of course, there is no selective studying required, and the idea is that if a chapter is more tricky, more difficult, in that case I've given you a 5 for required practice. So on a scale of 1 to 5. The duration of lectures for each of the chapters are given over here, and the cumulative. So if I have completed till this chapter, I have completed 21% curriculum. And then what all have you completed? Have you done the lecture, the self-study, the different practices, revision, and all is mentioned over here. Different sources of practice have been put over here. And confidence level, you need to mark yourself on a scale of 1 to 5 as to how confident you are in the chapter, so that at the time of revision you will know how to go about it. And notes to yourself, you can just add any comment you want to remember during the exam or during revision. You can just put that. The entire average and summary is over here. The average lengthiness, the average numerical levels of chapters, the average difficulty level, etc. And out of 73 chapters, let's say you've completed 11 chapters. That is done. So only this portion you're going to be marking as done or undone. It is already undone by default. You just have to mark it as done D when you complete the chapter. Once you do the chapter, till the number of chapters that have been completed over here, for example, let's say I'll remove these 2 chapters over here. Just notice over here. So I'll say, for example, I've not done these chapters. I'll remove them. In that case, what happens? Your current week is over here. And based on the duration of the chapter, etc., you'll get the current week data that this week you need to complete this. In week 2, you have to complete these chapters, week 3 over here. And depending on the lengthiness of the chapter, etc., the weeks have been divided. It is not equally divided. Based on the lengthiness of the chapters, you will have some weeks maybe 2 or 3 chapters, some weeks might be 1 or 2 chapters, depending on that. Once you do the input, you can see the progress with respect to the lectures completed, the self-study done. Syllabus is basically lecture and self-study both. Then practice, then revision, then extra practice. And the confidence level graph across subjects. The same thing in a tabular way. And then we go to the summary, which is a very interesting sheet. You input these details, how many hours you can study on a daily basis, how many hours you can study on weekends, how many hours do you need to study per chapter, your self-study and practice. Number of days you'll require for revision, and some spare days for holidays or medical, etc. We'll keep some buffer days over here. This tells you that from the date you started preparing till today. Now you understood that today's date is important. You cannot put a future date for starting preparation because of this. So the 36 days you started preparation, you've completed 36 days of studying, 160 days left. You have 4 buffer days to catch up and 26 days for revision before the exam date. This is a confidence level for different subjects, so you know which subject to give more importance in studying, practice, etc. This tells you the number of chapters you've completed, done. Undone is 60 plus 4, 64 chapters, for example. This is going to be based on the 60 and 64 is that if you had followed the schedule, you would have completed 9 plus 4, 13. You're behind your schedule, therefore extra undone is 4. 60 was anyway supposed to be undone based on your schedule, but 4 extra is undone because you're not performing well. Chapter is the number of chapters, the self-study hours, the lecture hours gives you the total hours of study. And this is a numerical analysis of the graphs above, that what is the total number of chapters you've completed and what were you supposed to complete. You were expected to complete 2.6, you completed 1.8. You're short of 33% of your effort. You need to increase your effort to 38%, and your new target, because you did not follow your existing target, new target is 2.8 chapters per week. Daily analysis is not a good idea. You should be sticking to weekly analysis. That gives you better understanding. The same thing for lecture hours, self-study hours, and total hours is given. And here you can click on any of the subjects and you can see what is the percentage done for that subject, or you can click on the clear filter to see the average completion of lecture, self-study, practice, revision, etc. hours. Right? This slicer, this graph may not work. In that case, please right click over here and just click on refresh, and then this graph is going to work for you. This is it. So use the tracker well, measure your performance, and do very, very well for your exam.